Thousands of years before the first trains came along, people were building railways. Because railways are an excellent way to move heavy loads across rough and wet ground. Well, I have some rough and wet ground and heavy loads to move, so I'm going to build a railway too. Up this field and into the drying tunnel at the top. One day it will go much further, I hope, but that will do for now. But how to build a railway cheaply and easily? Well, the first railways were just wooden poles laid on the ground for logs to roll on. And then came split poles or planks with a flatter top for wheels to roll on. Upright sides were added to stop the wheels falling off the track. Iron rails didn't come in until the 1700s, and steel rails, as we see them these days, are only 150 years old or so. They don't have sides. Instead, the wheels have sides, or flanges, to keep them on the tracks. Here's some modern rail track. We built our house on it. Well, a few lengths of it, because it's strong and rigid. But of course, this is made for massive trains to run on, so it's crazy heavy, very expensive, and impossible to bend. You can buy scaled-down versions of this for narrow-gauge railways, but not in Ireland as far as I know, and anyway it's very expensive. So I've been scratching my head to come up with a really simple way to make track that anyone can build. Somewhere between round wooden poles thrown on the ground and high-tech engineering. I'm going with flat bar steel. It's easy to get hold of, it's cheap, and it's easy to bend, which is important, otherwise how are you going to go round corners? This is 50mm by 8. It's plenty strong enough for the job, I think.
They are right, yeah, but these are nice and dry. Yeah.
Next we need some sleepers, also known as ties. We're cutting ours on the homemade bandsaw, but you could use 2x4s just as well. These are spruce trees from the hedge. It's not great timber and they won't last many years, but they are free and they're easy to replace. I'm going to creosote them and not expect too much. The bandsaw is working well, though I had to stop and replace the pull cord. And I had to figure out how to hold planks upright. I made some plywood cams to do this, and they work fine. As I say, you could just go and buy some 2x4s and skip all this, but I thought you might like to see how I'm doing it. So now we have the sleepers and the rails, but how to connect them in a simple way, keeping the rail upright. This is what I came up with. Lots of short lengths of galvanized pipe. It's really cheap and it won't bend. I drilled a 6mm hole through them up near the top and 2 holes in each sleeper. You wouldn't need a pillar drill like this, but it helps to keep the holes vertical. The pipes are held rigid and upright in the wood at the correct distance. I drilled lots of 6mm holes through the metal bar too, and used 6mm gutter bolts from the inside, and that seems to work. It's perfect. It's so easy it seems like cheating somehow. Yes, the wheel flanges might foul the bolt head, but I'll go into that in another video. Basically, I don't think it's going to be a problem. The bolt doesn't need to take any weight, it just needs to hold the rail vertical. So these little gutter bolts should be strong enough, but we'll see. And if this all works, this surely has to be the easiest and cheapest way ever to make a railway. You could do the same with just a drill and 2 sizes of drill bit, an angle grinder and a handsaw. And if you did that, then we both have railways, which would be fun, wouldn't it? Especially if we could join them up somehow. This will be 15-inch gauge track, which means 15 inches between the rails, but there are all sorts of gauges of track, from 5 inches right up to 7 or 8 feet. It just depends what sort of trains you want to run on your tracks and how fast they will go. This isn't a toy railway or a model railway, it's going to be a useful working railway, just quite small. I'll need to add some ballast, which is just lots of small stones to support and level the sleepers. But look, I've made a start, which is really exciting. And there are all sorts of other interesting challenges to work out, like the fish plates that connect the rails, and points or switches for going off in another direction. How am I going to make those? And of course, there's the rolling stock to go on top of the rails. So tune in next time for the next thrilling installment.